that these greater works that Jesus spoke of, when he said, if you believe as I believe, when he said, if you trust a room the same way I trust. So the question is, how did he trust the room? What did he mean when he said, if you trust the Father the way I do, if you believe, if you have confidence, if you have the same confidence in the Father that I have, greater works than these you shall do. We, in the past, have looked at those greater works as being something in the line of healings and raising people from the dead, all of these physical things. Suppose the resurrection from the dead is resurrecting the African from the death that was imposed on it by a colonizing power, and the yoke of death is being thrown off now. And this in itself is being spoken to by the voices, from the voices all over the world, and recognizing that Africans. I looked at George Floyd's picture, and I'm like, this is what the African looks like. The broad nose, the thick lips, burly body, the gentle giant. And all of those features we have been taught and been indoctrinated to be ashamed of those features when they are the dominant features of the world. So suppose right now, this instant, we are involved, deeply so, in the work, the greater works. And when I say involved in those greater works, because we are the only ones I know who have made efforts in a spiritual way to flesh out all the injustices, bring them to the surface, and force the eyes of the world to look upon them and make a decision about how they view them. And by virtue of standing in solidarity, they too have opened up themselves for change. And any door that's open, we can walk in freely, because the search for change is also granting permission to utilize that energy that's available to impact, to influence the soul, the heart of humanity, so that it will redirect its course and will clear its vision, redirecting its course to travel on a journey of righteousness, and redirecting its vision of the seed, not only was ugly, but also to have those eyes search for the beauty in the midst of all of that ugliness. Before you think about that, you think it's possible that that's what we're experiencing now? Well, James, I do.
I say yes. What happens to us has I agree, it gives the capacity for the whole world, for all of mankind, to be spiritually resurrected. With an authentic spiritual resurrection, not the one that we think is resurrection.
Yeah. We've talked about when a miracle catcher called the rest of the world gets pneumonia. And we have seen the authoritarian nature of the leadership in this nation. And if this nation's leadership influences the world, it is not so much the leadership as it is this nation's energy. So the transformation of that energy to something positive and inclusive would mean that we are in essence influencing and energizing everyone on this globe to move in a direction that humanity should have moved in quite some time ago. How is this being done? When we recognize and embrace the reality of being what we were created to be, that is Elohim, then that in itself gives us access to the inherent power that we are created with. And that inherent power in the wrong hands will become a ruler over people as opposed to a teacher of righteousness to people. And an example of that unabridged righteousness, that an example of love without conditions, the whole concept of freedom being not freedom is not something that you have in order to do what you want, but freedom gives you the opportunity to be who you were created to be. And suppose in doing that, or in embracing who we are, or what we are, suppose by doing that and infusing this power by influencing everything globally, that these who think that we are mere humans will come to realize that they too are Elohim, maybe not know how to articulate it, but act in that manner. We have this golden opportunity to bring a sense, not a sense, the reality of peace to the whole globe. And by doing so, we will be fulfilling something that we had no clue of what we were talking about in December of 2011 when we said that mankind's renewal would not be devastated, not on our watch. And now we are beginning to see the fruit of that that was planted during that period of time. Also, before us, we are seeing represented the immaturity of a group of people who were actually the last to be established in the earth, and that's the Europeans about 10,000 years ago. And we talked about them being the children of humanity. And that is more evident now than ever before. And the evidence of that is the concept of Mr. Trump. He is immature, and it's impossible for us to talk about him being representative of all the concepts that this country stands for and have hidden from the world, or made an attempt to do it anyway through the efforts of suppression. It's impossible for us to acknowledge that without acknowledging his immaturity. And if he is a symbol of this nation in other regards, then he is a symbol of this nation in its immaturity too. Because immature children seek to have their way no matter what. And that's one of the major edicts that has been perpetuated by this country. We're going to do what we want to do, what we want to do, what we want to do, and that kind of thing. So right now, our Creator has granted us privilege, opportunity, and an honor beyond anything imaginable to be the tip of the spear and the burden bearer for humanity, while at the same time remaining humble. Because without humility, you don't get this opportunity, this privilege. And in direct contrast to the effort of religion to pray these things away, and seeing that they are not going away, in direct contrast to that, here we stand, realizing that truly, truly, all things do work together for the good of those who love the Lord, or for the good of those who trust in Yahweh. And truly, we know what it means that no weapon formed against us shall prosper. The weapon of religion and government and racism and misogynism and all these other isms cannot prosper, meaning that their prosperity, that the prosperity that they thought they had, is now showing up as something that doesn't really have any footing, not just in this society, but in this realm, because our efforts of doing these greater works that Jesus talked about are truly matched by what he did in terms of the works he did, because his efforts were not just to open blinded eyes and raise people from the dead and cause the lame to walk. His efforts were to be a direct contrast between those who were in cahoots with the Romans, as well as those who were organizing a physical battle against the Romans. His efforts were to bring the Hebrews to a place of freedom from those oppressive principles, by doing it from the spiritual realm, as opposed to matching evil efforts with evil efforts, meaning violence with violence, that kind of thing. And now we have in view the greater works, because with he laid a foundation. People think that he came to change the world, but he didn't. He was an intermediary who came to lay a foundation for change. And upon that foundation, Muhammad built. And both of their works and teachings were distorted to fit the narrative of oppression and greed. And here we are, standing, facing all of these oppressive tactics, and these oppressive tactics being inculcated in the teachings of religion, be it Islam, Christianity, or whatever. And we are facing that, but we're not facing it with weapons of destruction. But we're facing it with tools that are poised to build a global family that exceeds anything that the earth has ever seen or imagined. Bring it into existence. Bring into this reality. The tree of life. It doesn't mean that there won't be unrightness, but the tree of life that has the fruit that will change the hearts of humanity if they partake of it. And they partake not coming to a tree to get something. The partaking of it is actually making sure the righteousness that Jesus and Muhammad spoke of, that the righteousness would be available to everyone by virtue of our desires. And I keep mentioning Muhammad, so let me say something about that for a moment, please. We are pretty familiar with the foundation that Jesus laid, and how he came to lay out the foundation for change in a spiritual way. Building upon that, Muhammad started to protect, but not started, he actually did it, protect those who were believers in the greater good of humanity from those who were at that time establishing Catholicism / Christianity, but were fighting those who were following the edicts of Jesus, and those who were Muslims who were following the edicts of Muhammad. He sought to protect all religious beliefs as long as that they did not infringe on the beliefs of others. So Jesus laid the foundation. Muhammad shows us what it's supposed to look like, and now here we are picking up the gauntlet of the foundation that Jesus laid and the picture that Muhammad painted, with us moving forward to combine the two for the purpose of bringing to humanity a greater clarity of what life is supposed to look like, what life is supposed to be in this earth realm. Not one of constant struggle, but a life of continuous growth in a spiritual sense. Any questions? No questions? Am I rambling or am I making sense?
Word, brother.
Say again?
You know, I was thinking of something. We're called the United States, the United States of America. And when those words were framed that way, I believe they were only thinking about the place that's between Canada and South America.
Most definitely.
But the Americas is the whole thing. And we've never been the United States of America. And this is an opportunity to be united with the world. So oftentimes we say things as a country that we don't even know what we're saying, but there's an underlying tenet of truth to it if we only saw it.
And I do think that it was seen at the time, yet the arrogance was purpose. The purpose of the arrogance was to draw a line of demarcation between the southern border and to actually incorporate Canada into this thing called the United States. The War of 1812, that's what it was about. Trying to actually take Canada and make it a part of this nation. I think that took place the way it did because there was a conscious effort to minimize the number of people of color who would be a part of this, and I put this in air quotes, great experiment called America. Excluding everything that they could not control or did not want to control at that time because it was too broad in terms of South America and Central America. So I readily agree with that, Barbara G, and believing that with the provinces or states, that the United States of the Americas is the United States of the Americas is going to become a reality sooner than we think. And I also believe that these false borders, coupled with these false notions of superiority, are going to be left by the wayside, with people being able to move freely on an earth that no one owns, but everyone owns. Earth that is in the possession of no one, but yet in the possession of everyone. I believe that we will revert to a period when humanity is in harmony with this thing we call nature. I do believe that. The more I think about that, being being one with nature, it is impossible to be one with nature if you just see yourself as a human born biologically, and that's it. Yet, if we understand that we are entities of a spiritual nature, then we don't have to get or become one with nature. We are one with it because it came from us, and its life depends upon us. And when we see it that way, then it makes it a bit easier to embrace the globe, to embrace those south of the border, regardless of whether or not the powers that be right now desire to do that. So I think the fence that was erected around the White House is telling. And to me, the story that is telling is that you sought to build a wall to exclude, and you put kids in cages. Now you live in a cage. Mm-hmm. You live in a cage erected by you, and your fears keep you behind those walls. And then to see the letters prominently imprinted on 16th Street, Black Lives Matter, is something that you see every time you leave the compound. I think that's telling in itself, because those words, Black Lives Matter, are on the street that leads to the White House. So that is saying to me the life that Africans brought to this earth is invading the false seats of power, and is in an effort to show globally what real power looks like. And it is not lost on me that this was done by an African woman. She birthed the idea of imprinting those words prominently on that street, and then changing the name of the Federal Plaza to Black Lives Matter Plaza. This in itself speaks volumes and says more than she probably realized. And I think that it being done by a female speaks to the feminine energy that is impregnated with global freedom, impregnated with justice, and impregnated with peace and love and kindness. And the womb is being breached giving birth. And we are on the verge of seeing that manifestation. What I'm saying is that that baby whose head is crowned through the womb is a symbol of a manifested reality that has not yet appeared in this realm, so that all can not only see but can partake of it. Any questions or comments? Is there anything that I've said that you don't see clearly, or is there something that you see that I have not said, or is there something you want to add or bring in based upon what questions you may have or thoughts you have entertained on the course of the week?
Yeah, James, it's not that I have any question. I think that I'm just trying to process, what do I need to do? What should I be conscientious about in terms of experiencing that resurrection authentically, spiritually, in terms of impacting on humanity? I know that we are doing it, in our own ways. I guess my question is trying to be more specific in terms of that which I can do, if that resonates a little bit.
Okay. Honestly, the most powerful thing that we can do is to stay focused on our desires. There's absolutely nothing physically that we can do that will change anything. However, there is everything to be done to change everything by maintaining our focus on the desire for harmony. And the reason I say that is because to be dependent on what we can do physically has proven to be ineffective at best and non-existent at worst. The idea of our spiritual desires being for humanity as well as Jesus' desires, as well as Muhammad's desires, being focused on loving kindness, that in itself changes things because of the energies that goes forth with that focus. And what happens is we begin to see manifestations of our desires, and we begin to see them rise up all around us. I guess in a word, in short, we can't do anything physically. Our desires are the most powerful things that we can have. Does that help you, George?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay. Well, we want to address the whole idea of that the desires versus our physical antics to influence globally.
Yeah. It's all about the spirit being more real than anything physical. That's the first thing. And when we understand that, then we understand that it's all about our spiritual essence rather than our physical presentation, the way we appear physically. Because when we're physical, we tend to think about how things look. We tend to think about how we feel from a physical perspective. We tend to think about things like what's in it for me and mine when we're physical. Because when we see ourselves physical, we see ourselves as separate from. We see ourselves as a physical being sees me separate from you. separate from George, separate from Evelyn. In other words, there's more there's more credence given to how I am separately. But when I see myself as a spiritual essence, I understand that I am not separate from, I'm connected to. And so the desires that I have are different than the desires I would have physically. Because the desires I would have from a physical being would be more selfishly oriented, would be more about how I can have the best for me and mine. When I see that from a spiritual perspective, I understand that my desires cannot be any different for me than for mankind, because we are one. So it's a lot more difficult to be selfish when you're. I mean, it's impossible to be selfish when you're speaking from your spiritual essence.
Okay. Think while you're speaking, something came to mind that no one picked up the phone and made a call. I remember we did African Liberation Day. Owusu Sadaki, who was the director of a school of African history and culture in Greensboro, North Carolina, called a meeting for us to organize African Liberation Day. And we did not have, of course, the mechanisms of communication that exist now. So we made phone calls and waited an hour for, a fax to come through, that kind of stuff, and brought people together. That was a movement. That was an effort put forth in a physical way. However, what's happening now is organic. No phone calls were made. No solicitation was put out there. This was an organic movement, meaning that this uprising has a life of its own. And that speaks to the spiritual nature of it. And to say that a movement or an uprising is organic and there is no designated leader means that there is no head of the snake to cut off. Also, it means that there is a life, there is breath being infused into it that no one is able to or control, manipulate, stop, or whatever. And so as long as our focus remains the same, the life of this organic uprising will continue until the manifestation of change is seen by everyone. I think also one of the major things that we, I suppose, need to be cognizant about putting in the macro is speaking to the hearts of the young people or people in general who are going to be sitting at the helm of these discussions about anti-racism and looking at what all of this means. Because the question that I have had to respond to from several different people who are sitting down with CEOs, company directors, principals, coaches, and just executives in general. One of the principal questions I've had to respond to is that every single one of them asked the same question or said the same thing: all lives should matter. And I was asked, well, how do you respond to that? Because all lives do matter. Well, they do. But when you're speaking to truth to power, the truth of the matter is, yes, all lives matter, but no one has considered that our lives matter. So when we say Black Lives Matter, it is a reminder that you have not taken that into consideration until now, and we're not sure you've done it at this point. The efforts that you present will show us whether or not you're true to this. The Deacon Truth to Power, not just the Black Lives Matter issues, but how did we get to where we are? We can talk about its racial discrimination, but what does that look like? Being deprived of employment, being deprived of living conditions. Someone, would you mute your phone, please? Being deprived of living conditions that conducive to a healthy lifestyle. These kinds of things that brought about this brought us to this place. I don't think that Jesus, but I know that this is not one of the things that Jesus had in mind, because when he spoke truth to power, it was not something that we would think of, because he actually is speaking truth to power. He didn't say anything. The only addressing that he did to the powers of that day was to religious people, but not to the governmental people. Have you asked yourself why? I think he did it because Jesus knew that our government could not function without religious support, and that support began to wane when he introduced to us by virtue of what he was doing, the foundation of how we were to do this. I think that the reason he dealt so harshly with religious people is because he was saying to us, the source of the power of the government is not the government itself, it's not even the people who support the government, but the source of that power is in religion, because everything has to be undergirded by spiritual energy in order for it to function, whether it be right or unright. It has to be fortified by that energy. And righteous energy is a stronger fortification than anything that challenges it. So I think that our children who are speaking truth to power, keeping that in mind, will be able to say things that they never even thought about. And what I'm saying is that one of the things that I'm left with those who are speaking with, that when the time comes, you will know what to say. Answer the question. But don't falter. Don't compromise. Because you can't compromise righteousness. You can't compromise loving kindness. Don't compromise, because truth is what it is. Think about it. They forced Kaepernick out of the league, and they forced the players into a position of compromise. And now, look at what happened. I think it was you, Barbara, made the statement that Kaepernick has been exonerated now because of what's taking place. I don't think that is ironic that Kaepernick took a knee, and the knee that he took was actually the same way that a fallen soldier is honored by his peers. And I don't think that it is lost on anyone that same knee is what took the life from the body of George Floyd. Mute your phone, please, unless you have a question. So that same knee that was railed against is the knee that took the life, but it's also the knee that gave life to a sense of Sheldon mentioned some place where there are no black people yet. They have a Black Lives Matter rally. 100% white people, but they had a Black Lives rally. So Black Lives Matter rally, that in itself speaks volumes, because they could very easily have simply sat on the sideline and saying, we don't have any codes here, but they didn't. Any questions or comments?
Hey, Rev, how y'all doing?
We doing it, George.
Rev, I got a question, but y'all gotta let me get to a stopping point about another minute and a half. But you can go ahead and proceed, okay?
Okay, I thank you.
Yes, sir.
I think it's also significant what you mentioned earlier. The difference between this movement or how it's in the past only being led for legislation change. This being something that goes far deeper, not in terms of, okay, this rule needs to be changed because this is what these people deserve. People wanting to abolish slavery, especially in the North, even though they wanted to abolish slavery, they still did not look at the African as being just as fully human as they were. Right. What is going on now is a bit different because it's not just someone saying or looking from afar saying, okay, you deserve this. It's them feeling and seeing themselves as the African and walking into that. I think that is a huge difference, and that's what's taking place, especially in these places where these people don't even see black people on a regular basis. Like 3 different places in Alaska. We talked about it yesterday. Slovakia, Utah, of all places. Whitefish, Montana. They are, of course, they're facing a lot of, well, I don't say a lot, but some resistance. But the point is, they cannot necessarily see their lives affected in a direct way, but still are feeling something and knowing that something needs to change. They don't come to face with black people on a regular basis, if any at all, honestly.
And that speaks to the spiritual nature of it and the depth of what it means. But when you talk about especially Whitefish, where Montana, is that what you say?
Montana.
Yeah, okay, Whitefish, Montana, but white only. Right?
Correct.
When we look at that, you would think that it is a white enclave that's in isolation from the rest of the issues that they mean Caucasians, for the most part, see as things that have no effect on them because none of us are there. That shift did not come because of a vote or because of a quote-unquote sermon that someone preached. That shift came because of a desire in the depths of the soul of the type of Adam who will stand in the gap and be a bridge between righteousness and unrighteousness, who will be a bridge between enlightenment and the lack thereof. So this in itself, to me, speaks of a greater depth of spirituality in terms of change than does the communities where there are a mixture of people in terms of what we call race. To see that take place, to me, speaks volumes. Anyone else?
Red.
Oh, George.
Yes, sir. How y'all doing? Something was said earlier about there's really nothing that you can do about it in the physical. And I don't know if I disagree with that. Well, I'll be the first to say I disagree with that. Because I think you can always do something. And what I mean by that, Reverend Richard, maybe I don't understand. I may have a little clarity of what spiritual is, and I may have a little clarity of what physical is. I know I'm a something. What's that, Rev?
Yeah, explain what you mean by that before you go down that road. When I said that the physical, there's nothing we can do physical. Let me explain that so we'll be on the same page. When I talk about there's nothing that we can do physically, everything physical is a manifestation of a spiritual reality, whether it be good, bad, or indifferent. So whatever is done physically is a manifestation of what is already done in the other realm. George Floyd was already dead, was already extricated from his body in the other realm. It was simply manifested in this realm. So the change that we seek, or the change that we desire, already exists. It simply has to be manifested. That's what I'm talking about. George.
Okay, I had y'all on mute. And the reason why I asked that question, Rev, with my personality, I'm a firm believer in if you wear the crown, your head's going to be heavy. If you sit on the crown, you're going to be uncomfortable. So I just know when I'm out here maneuvering, I got to do something good. And one of the things that I try to implement and to do good, I got to have somebody laugh around me.
You got to manifest that. What I'm saying is that that's already happening. You're simply manifesting it. When you say that, let me show you what I'm saying. When you say that I have to do something out here, I've got to feed this family, that's already done. The only thing you're doing is manifesting it. That's done before you did it. Everything that we see in the spiritual realm is already done. For example, when you look at an acorn, you think that's all you see. In that acorn is an oak tree. You don't see it, but it's there. So what happens? That acorn brings into manifestation something that you can see in your mind, but you can't see it physically. So that oak tree is manifested through the acorn. The family that you help is manifested through you. It had to exist in your mind before it exists in the natural world. Having somebody around you to laugh is a thought that exists in your mind before it is manifested in this world. And a thought is spiritual. So, and the nature of that thought is determined by its influence. If it's influenced by your soul, it carries a different connotation when it's manifested than if it is influenced by your environment, meaning your earthly environment. It will carry a different connotation when it's manifested. But everything.
If I may add one thing on to that, it is your desire, and all of our desires that come from a spiritual place of our heart that also automatically determine how we interact with the world and everything that we do, whether it's conscious or unconscious. So depending on your mood and how you feel within, and you wanted to hear see those people laugh, and you wanted to bring them people joy, sometimes you're doing that without even consciously thinking, I need to make this person laugh and say something, funny or whatever. It just automatically happens. You just being naturally who you are to your being and being true to yourself, and at the same time spreading your joy. Hey, sometimes that's happening a lot of times when you don't even necessarily intend for it to happen in that particular moment, only because just like that acorn is desired to ultimately become an oak tree, your desire is to automatically bring joy in the hearts and lives of people into their day. impact that you're having is, I've been out there, so I know many times those people can be lonely. Many times those people could have had a horrible day. You've just set like a butterfly effect, a chain of reactions where that one little small thing of you just feeling like, okay, I need joy around me, I need to spread joy around, has had an exponential effect on the world. So when you say the biggest thing in terms of physical, you're not saying that we're not and we shouldn't do anything physical. It is saying that, and even with the people who are being affected by the movement that is going on, because their hearts are being affected, their hearts and spirits being growing and being affected will change the direction and change their actions moving forward in the things that they do, whether they in all types of unconscious biases and things like that, where they may have done one thing, won't necessarily occur now moving going forward.
Well, now I done caught up with y'all because I believe in your mind to take you to a place before your body get there. I firmly believe in that. So I get maneuvering. My mind already see people laugh, and then it takes place. Now I'm caught up with you all. Appreciate you, Sheldon. Appreciate you too, Reverend.
And I'll go one step forward. You say your mind is doing it, but actually, George, it's your heart that is doing it. So with what Red was talking about earlier today, in terms of legislation, a lot of times people have been doing things only based upon their mind. The little pleasantries that they give you, the BS pleasantries or whatever, or the legislation, some of that is their mind. But we know when we interact, especially with our loved ones, we throw our mind completely out the window once our heart starts to get involved. We start to move and interact and deal with people on a totally different basis. We're not even calculating, not necessarily thinking about what's in our own personal best interest. Now, once your heart is involved, is automatically what's in our best interest.
Got that.
All right, I dig everything you said. I dig some of what you said, Sheldon, which is the majority. Now I am. You know what? I'm gonna tell you. That's good to hear y'all laugh, because the hardest thing to do is make a black man laugh today. I don't know what. Okay,
George, you're essentially talented.
Good morning.
Right now, it is difficult to get an African period to laugh because the nature of what's happening now. But one of the things that I kind of chuckled about is when Sheldon said, "Real." I ain't never heard that before. But anyway. That's how much you influence.
I was talking to George. Yeah, I was talking to George. I saw something that I have not seen before on the scale that is being done, and that is the support that is coming from leadership on the continent of Africa. The magnitude of that support is different than what it has been in the past. And I think that's very significant. And I just brought that in because it's been slipping my mind ever since I started talking. So,
I have a question.
Excuse me.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Hey, sorry, I'm out walking. So kind of what George said about actions, and you're talking about there's nothing physical we can do. I just saw a video that my aunt sent me, one of my dad's sisters, that talked about how what we need to do differently other than protest at the start was, he mentioned two things: arming yourselves as black people, legally buying guns, and then the other one was not supporting
are sending your dollars to Black-owned restaurants as a start. In essence, letting our money talk, and not just the protest. And I'm wondering what your thoughts are on that, or what everyone's thoughts are on that kind of thinking. And, you know, I'm going to go on mute because there's cars near me, but I'm here.
Okay. I'll start, then others can continue it. As far as arming yourselves, we've been there before. National Rifle Association, Rifle, Shotgun, Pistol Instructor, James Richard. I have certification to teach that. So did most of us. So we traveled the country teaching people how to shoot and getting them involved with the National Rifle Association. Nothing changed. We just got shot. Fred Hampton lying in bed, 27 years old, lying in bed in Chicago, and hundreds of bullets riddled his apartment, killing him, and his wife, fiance, girlfriend, whatever, killing her, and police saying that he shot at them, and was proving that all around that where fire came from the outside. You will not outmatch the police or the military when it comes to arming yourselves. To arm yourself legally is to arm yourself like a vigilante. And you fight fire with fire, make a bigger fire. Our battle is not physical at all. It is 100% spiritual. As far as Black Dollars are concerned, we've done that before as well. We're going to direct our money to Black-owned businesses. We've done all of that. And nothing changed. Now, am I saying that you should not spend your money in those places? I'm not saying that at all. But what I am saying, it does not bring about change. It may make you feel good, and it may just people into bankruptcy, but it does not bring about change. Nothing changes anything except the heart of a man changes. And the heart of a man cannot be changed with dollars and cents. The heart of a man is changed from the spiritual. And if that does not take place, then it is a band-aid effect. Like, example, I remember when we went after boycotting Budweiser, and Budweiser began to support sickle cell research. And when they started supporting sickle cell research, we found out that the boycott was called off because of sickle cell research, but also the underlying reason it was called off is because one of the major people who were involved in organizing the boycott was given a distributorship by Budweiser. So those kinds of things take place when you try to change things with money. They just increase the money that they paid somebody to become their spokesman while you think they're supporting you. So neither one of those efforts result in what doable change, and maybe I should put it that way. Anyone else want to speak to that? Hello? Ladies, does that help?
Sorry, I had to get my phone out. Yeah, that's I think so. I was curious about their thought that this person thought that you withhold, in essence, in supporting my position, you're withholding from others, and in essence, using your dollars to speak. And I don't know that we ever really did that, but I don't, like I said, I don't know.
When we had the greatest growth in the midst of capitalism in this nation, when we showed how effective we could be in taking care of ourselves and entrepreneurship and establishing import-export relationships with other nations, that's when the Greenwood area in Oklahoma, Tulsa, Oklahoma was born. That's when the Black Wall Street in Raleigh, North Carolina was burned down. That's when roads were burned. So every time there has been a successful effort for us to be who we are by ourselves, separate from the system has always destroyed us. So again, that's not durable change. Durable change is when you change the hearts of people.
And I say one last thing. This person's. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Well, the last thing I was going to say. This person's assertion. Just quick. This person's assertion is that Jewish folks have done this, and that's why they haven't been subjugated recently. But I didn't know about that.
Let me address that, please. Jewish folk did it because Jewish folk look like they do. Jewish folk look like Caucasians for the same reason that they bombed Japan, bombed Germany, because they're white. So the Jewish people were able to do that, but they were not able to do it as early as people think they were. That's why Rockefeller was a Rockefeller. That's why he Anglicized his name as opposed to bringing with them the Jewish name from Europe. They did it, but they also passed as white in the process of doing it. And they did it quietly enough, and they were able to hide in the midst of the white Americans, or let me put it this way, they were Jews hiding in the midst of quote-unquote Christian white Americans. That's what happened, because it was not so much the system against them as it was Christians against them in this country. So when I speak to that in relationship to what the Jews did, they did it as white people. They did not do it as Jews. But when they amassed enough influence, that's when they started doing it as Jews. That's when they began to forge a deep-seated relationship with Israel, because Israel was an established colony for the purpose of being a support for Europe and the U.S. and the Middle East. All of those things have to be taken into consideration. Now, with us, no matter what we do, we can't hide in the midst of anybody. And even those of us who went north and passed for white, when that was discovered, they received the same fate as the rest of us. So that's a major, major difference when we do a comparison between what the Jews did and what we can or cannot do. Rainier, Sheldon, somebody.
I would, I guess I've been dealing with this type of question for a while, at least I used to. While I was at Midland Tech, there was an organization that did mentoring and tutoring. And I did not fully I did not work fully with the organization. I kind of worked alongside it. And the reason being is because they were only willing to help African Americans. And while I definitely was happy to help any African American, I did not want to just set myself up where I could not help someone else that would come along, whether they be white or anything else, especially Latinos or whatever. But other people at the school that sought my help as well. So it's the idea of buying black, I do, but I don't specifically seek out only to help black people, and that's it. It's more so to just help marginalized groups, period. And I feel to kind of get in a conundrum if you actually only see yourself only willing, this is my own personal opinion, only willing to help one particular group, then you become no better than other groups who do the same exact thing. In terms of the gun ownership, I don't think that's where our strength comes from, and I think that's more so of us trying to become more like the oppressor, but at the same time, we cannot outdo them from a larger picture in that aspect, partly because we're not ruthless enough. We have heart. So there's no way that we can go toe-to-toe doing that same exact thing. Yes, we can do things in terms of survival when it comes, or try to do things for survival as it comes to guns, but we're not ruthless enough. And to get in that kind of, for lack of a better word, game is to also not acknowledge and do the things that are our strength and that we're actually good in. And not good in, but part of us down for ourselves. We talked about it last night in terms of Haiti gaining their freedom. We talked about them actually doing ancestor worship and things like that, which of course came from West Africa, from Africa period. If they were to only play, for lack of a better word, white man's game, they would have never done that. That's where their power lies. And in terms of the Jews, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Chef. I'm sorry.
Oh, in terms of, I'm trying to put all of this into words like I see it and feel it, but I'm just trying to translate it to words. And the idea of Jewish people and what they have done, yes, from a capitalistic standpoint, they have done very, very well. On the other side of that, I see where Jewish people themselves have only become fearful oppressors who do nothing but marginalize other people, especially when you look at places like Palestine and things like that, and they're not happy. They literally, essentially just became their oppressor. Besides this whole thing is being the past for white. As an identity, as a people, who are they? What did they give up in this pursuit of making sure that they had physical power, and that includes capital, over other groups? What did they gain and what did they lose?
Quick question for you, Sheldon.
I was waiting on you, George.
Are you a graduate of South Carolina State University?
No, I didn't go to the States.
You darn sure sound like it, man. That's all I had to ask you, man.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh, I thought you were going to ask me something else because I was trying to flush out my thoughts and I wasn't sure if I clearly explained what I was trying to communicate.
Nah, I got you, boss.
Where is you?
I was going to say that, are you done, Sheldon?
Yes, I'm done. Well, no, I'm done.
Or, anyway, I was going to say that, look where we are now, and guns didn't get us there. The only thing that got us there is basically what Pastor was talking about earlier. And it made me think of the Hebrew letter Aleph, where we're standing in the gap to influence, to bring down from the upper world what is needed in the lower world. And guns didn't do that. Even economics didn't do that. I mean, how else would people in Whitefish, Montana be affected except in the spiritual? So, and guns and economics are not going to affect people in little isolated places like that. Because, you know,
what would be happening with guns or economics wouldn't really affect them in the first place. The only thing that gets to them is what's happening in the macro and the spiritual, which is why they can have a Black Lives Matter rally with only white people. I mean, how else would it happen? There's no way, except through the spiritual.
And that in itself speaks to why we are where we are and who we are. Because the only thing that, when we look at that, the reason that the enslaved from Angola were brought to these shores in the first place was because of economics. And the way it was sustained was with guns. And when Sheldon talks about that we are not ruthless enough, we are spiritual. We are the origin of all life. That's where we come from. That's the essence of our being. And for us to be that ruthless would mean that we are destructive. We are destroying life as opposed to supporting it, strengthening it, and giving meaning to it. There is no instance where I can find Africans on a large scale or small scale for that matter, tying someone between a horse and literally pulling them apart as an example of what will happen if you disobey master, or dragging someone behind a truck in these days, or chasing a man down in the truck and killing him for no reason whatsoever, other than the fact that he's black, and then say those disparaging things over his body. You cannot do that unless you are ruthless and you do not see the people who you are perpetrating this against as being human. And the thing that gets me is that when you think about it, the only thing that makes a white man human, or makes a white man think that people are less human than he is the color of his skin. It's not intellect. Because look at the ones who did it. It's not intellect. Look at what white folks chose as their leadership, Donald Trump. So it can't be because of intellect. It can't be because of ingenuity. It's because of the skin. That's the only reason that we are seen as being less than. But just because you are being seen as less than, it doesn't mean you are. Suppose that's simply projection, that they feel less than, and that's why they're projecting to us. We cannot buy into their ruthlessness, because it does not make us like them. It makes us worse than they are, because we know better. We know that it is unethical for us to have attitudes towards life as they do. There are the only group of people on this earth that I know of that hunt for sport are people of European origin. Everyone else hunts for survival. No, they don't care for the sport of it. It's totally out of our nature to be able to not only carry that thought freedom at the time in our minds, but definitely not in our hearts. That's not who we are. And I tell you unequivocally that that's who I and many others tried to be when we were traveling through the South with our guns. You're not going to spit on me, I'm going to shoot you. You're not going to do this or that to me because it's going to be a gun battle, that kind of thing. That never wins. Never wins. I remember sitting with Stokely Carmichael one day, and the group of us, it's about 20 of us, we were talking. And one of the guys said that, from the Black Men's Liberation Army said, that what we need to do is we need to be trained in the art of fisticuffs as well as weaponry. And historical Carmichael says to do what? He says, think about this. If you defeat the police, now you got the National Guard. If you defeat the National Guard, now you have the Army and Navy, the Marines, the Air Force, and if you defeat them, now you have the whole European armies to defeat. So how can you ever win? That makes sense to me. That the winning is not based upon who can kill the most people or who can dominate or subjugate the most people. The winning is based upon who can be the most loving, who can express the greatest degree of kindness, who has the deepest sense of compassion and empathy for humanity itself. I have deep compassion and empathy for Donald Trump. He is sick and he does not realize it. So we are a different mindset than those who have oppressed and robbed this world of its sense of life. The idea of I think Ron mentioned this a couple of weeks ago. The idea of seeing ourselves as human is a mistake and a misnomer, because we are not human. We're more than human. When we look at when we try to solve things as humans, that means that we're trying to do it physically. Because the only thing that causes us to think that we are human are our bodies, and that's physical. When we see that we are spiritual Elohim, we say we are spiritual, but we don't believe it. Because when we believe that, then we understand that the nature of our bringing resolution, the method rather of our bringing resolution to the issues is based upon the depth of our spiritual dependency. And spiritual dependency means that we understand that we have been indoctrinated as physical beings. So it is extremely difficult for us to see a spiritual direction that's on a spiritual outcome for what is to take place. And that renders us ineffective if we depend on the physical. But it makes us more effective and unstoppable when we depend totally on our desires, coupled with releasing our desires to be fulfilled by the one who created us all, and then are able to not only relish in the solutions to the issues that we face, but at the same time become more ingrained with the nature of our spirituality, knowing that when we embrace being Elohim, it does not give us a leg up to be destructive. It does not give us a leg up to be dominant. It gives us the opportunity to bring everyone to the place where we are. We are not on the top of the ladder and continuously climbing. We're on one rung trying to pull everyone else up with us so we can get to the same place at the same time. Because that's how we were created, that's why we were created, and quite frankly, that is the whole reason that the Creator allowed us to be enslaved in the first place. Because we did not do what we were supposed to do from the vantage point that we had in navigating the world. Now, we have no choice. And right now, it is no doubt in my mind that the reason we are just not getting to this place is because efforts to change things have been dealt with legislatively or through warfare and or economics, and none of those things work. All the things that we have tried are the weapons that have been used to subdue us: economics, government, religion, guns. We cannot use the weapons that we use to subdue us to make an effort to subdue the ones who invented it. We must be the parents to the irresponsible children who have become oppressors to the whole world and to people of color. We are the ones who must become the parental source, as opposed to allowing the Caucasian to express parental deference or control over us. We are treated like children, and we have embraced that. That's the thing that we must change, and it does not change with weaponry, regardless of whether it is legislative weaponry or a physical weapon that you can hold in your hands. Any questions or comments about that?
Well, I do have another thing, Pastor. I'm sorry, I'm walking and I'm out of breath. What do you think it was about right now that pierced so many hearts? Was it the video? Was it the protest? Was it the riot? What? What was the most,
I think the video is what got everyone's attention. And the idea of a man crying out, "I can't breathe," spoke to the soul of humanity. And the violence of the movement is what kept their attention. And when the violence subsided, it was at a place where things could very well have gone the other way in terms of not being focused on anymore. But when the violence subsided, what happened? Then the police began to be exposed for who they really are. So the thing that pierced the hearts is people had to face a stark reality. And that stark reality was everything that these Africans have been saying about the police and how they relate to them is true. And here it is right before our eyes. Now, it's not like it hasn't been there before, but people have been so caught up in survival mode. People have been caught up, students trying to make enough money to pay a student loan and live too. People trying to get rich. People invested in the stock market because they want to be comfortable in the future. Those kinds of things. All of this money, work. All these things were taken away by the pandemic. And now, with that gone, as Sheldon was talking about, I think yesterday, about there were no sports, no new movies being made. Everything is a reorder. And people now are glued to the TV because now their focus has been captured. And once your focus is captured and your soul is touched, there is no turning back. And I don't think it was one thing. I think it was a series of things that made that happen around here.
Another one too, adding on to that, was the way that the death actually took place. Also, everyone, at least on TV, in a dramatic scene, has seen someone get shot.
Hello? Sheldon?
Oh, yes.
Oh.
I'm here.
Okay.
Okay. Even though, what, did everyone hear everything? Did I get cut off?
You cut off.
Oh, okay. Even the way that the death took place, you could not just turn away from it. It was a slow death. It was intentional. You had to sit there and feel it. It wasn't something that just quickly took place and ended. Anyone capable, even if they only have gotten frightened real quick, to in a blink second pull a trigger and kill someone, but to sit there with your bare hands and to slowly kill someone, that is extremely barbaric. You can't help but to feel that if you have a heart. And so that touches you, that does something to you. One we were talking about yesterday, it seems like everything has been orchestrated perfectly in terms of the aesthetic events that have been going on around the world. First with the COVID coming around and everyone having to isolate, so they're no longer being able to be distracted by the smaller things that are going on in their everyday lives. The things that once seemed important, this is life without those things. I never could even imagine this, never even thought about anything like this. Okay, Now I'm seeing all of this stuff around me. It is something we don't have some answer to immediately, etc. It changes your heart. Did it change everyone's heart? Absolutely not. But did it change some people's hearts? Absolutely. Okay. Then the situation comes with, first it was the one in Georgia. We saw how a lie was propagated in terms of the man was killed, self-defense. Oh, there's a video that pops up. The audacity of this video has been passed around for like 2 weeks around Facebook. So it's very, very visceral, in your face. You see the person being shot by the shotgun a few times and then falling to the ground. And then there's Aubrey thing. So it's almost like everything was orchestrated. Like, I'm just going to say it's very, very difficult for one to go through all of those different events, and at the end of those events, not be changed by them. And when you talk about the order and all of them happening together, if the Floyd thing situation had happened at the end of last summer or beginning of fall, sometime when the weather is about the same, there's no way that we would still have the same results here in the United States and definitely around the world that we have been witness to this past week.
I agree.
Yeah. In addition to that, Sheldon, when there were people beyond count who were watching the memorial service that they had in Minnesota. And when Al Sharpton said, "Let us stand in silence for 8 minutes and 46 seconds," that in itself left a deep impression, because it's one thing to watch the knee on his neck and watch the smirk on the face of the officer and them tell you it was 8 minutes and 46 seconds. There's a difference in that and you standing silent for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. That gives you a greater sense of how long his knee was on that neck. And the first 5 minutes he was dead. The last 3 minutes and 46 seconds, he was still there to make sure he was dead. You see where I'm coming from? So if you just stop and do nothing for 8 minutes and 46 seconds, that gives you a sense of how of the longevity of that knee being on his neck, and the agony that he had to have endured in order for him to be extricated from that body, so that he would no longer be suffering. So
I'm sorry, go ahead, Reverend Rich, my bad.
I'm done.
Someone brought up the question of economics. Just out of curiosity, when people are saying we're just going to support black-owned businesses, I think that's a very good idea. I believe I practice with Sheldon what he said. However, if you want to support black-owned businesses and he has a restaurant, where do you think he get his ribs from? So that way is a good way. However, like Reverend Richard said, it's nothing of longevity. It's nothing of longevity. However, out of curiosity, and I just want to see what you all think about it, Zion Williamson, he was the #1 recruit in basketball coming out of his class in the country. He played basketball in South Carolina. If Zion Williams at his press conference were to say, "I'm taking my talents to Xavier University in Louisiana," that right there could disrupt economics. Zion Williams is going to be in the NBA regardless.
No, he's not. No, he's not.
If he goes to Xavier University, Reverend Richard?
Not with that attitude. No, he's not. When
well, I don't.
1991, let me finish. In 1991, this kid made a statement about how he felt. I think he was dealing with police brutality or something. And he made a statement about, no, I know what it was. He sat in the locker room when the national anthem was being played because he said that the flag represented principles that he could not support, the principles of oppression. And as soon as they found out about it, he had, now, mind you, his shot percentage for free throw was 95.7, and he dominated his first year in the league, and the next year he was gone.
Now, what player is that, Reverend Rich?
I was trying to think of his name. He played with, oh my God, I'll do the research to find out what his name is.
He came out of LSU.
LSU?
He came out of LSU, and
Chris Jackson.
Chris Jackson, that's his name.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying with that, Reverend Richard, if we may, and like any one of the athletes that come out up under from your covering, and they say they're taking their talents to an HBCU, that's enough to disrupt some degree of economics. That's just, and I'm just asking you all how you all feel about that. Do you think? I mean, I think that's a little bit better than saying, you know what, I'm only gonna buy food clothes.
I don't think it's going to disrupt anything. I really don't. And the reason it's not is because the bulk of the money that's made is going to be made, number one, from advertisement, number two, from ticket sales. And that's going to come in no matter what. So that's not going to disrupt anything. He'll be forgotten in 2 years or less. The other thing is that if you say, I'm going to buy from black businesses, what about Ben and Jerry's? Look at the statement they made. Hell, they made a greater statement than Oprah. I haven't heard anything she said yet. But yet people pay $200 to hear her speak about stuff they already know.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Michelle,
what would you do about Ben and Jerry's? With Ben and Jerry's, I mean, if you were to read their statement, it sounds like it came from one of us.
Well, what did it say, Reverend Richard?
Ben and Jerry's, we did a full-throated support of Black Lives Matter with a challenge to all other industries and corporations to support and lend their influence to bringing about change, not just in the police department, but in the whole of the African communities around this nation and this world. Google it and read it. It's a long statement, but that's the gist of it.
Oh, yeah.
I think, in my opinion, I think even if what George is talking about is successful, it's not the point. This is a spiritual battle, and I agree with what Pastor and Sheldon has said about this, and Barbara for that matter. You got to change the heart of people, and if you can find a way to influence things financially, that doesn't change the heart of people. That's just forcing them to do something because it's affecting their money. So, because I've often said that the black athlete could do more. I think that if kids stop going to Clemson because of racial inequality, like the time one of the best recruiting classes they had at Clemson was after that cop shot that kid walking to the store at night. And that kid, and nothing was done about that. To me, that was an opportunity to say, you know what, I want to make sure that my son's going to be okay. We're not going to come to Clemson University. And I think if more of that happens, or if you look at all the things that have happened in the state of Ohio, the injustices, if black athletes say, you know what, I may play for the Pittsburgh Steelers, I may play, but I'm not going to play in Cleveland. I'm going to boycott this game. I think it makes a statement, but that doesn't fix the
the spiritual matter that's taking place here. It doesn't help it at all. It may frighten people into making changes because it affects their money, but this is a spiritual battle, and this is an opportunity that I don't recall the earth ever having before, and I don't think it should be clouded by trying to make financial judgments on something that will not have a lasting effect.
And we made statements for 400. Actually, it's been 400 years and 10 months. We've been making statements, and making those statements have changed nothing. I would challenge anyone to look into and do the historical research and find any period, and I use this word very loosely, in human history, where there has ever been an uprising, a movement, or whatever you want to call it, of this nature that is organic and that is based upon a true, in-depth desire for humanity to function as one. Nowhere in human history you will find it. I mean, Jesus showed us this. What happened? Assyrians rose up against the Romans. Romans defeated them. You can't do that through war. You can't do it through economics. All you are doing is making a useless statement that's going to have minimum effect. It's going to have no effect on the hearts of anyone. It's going to change absolutely nothing. Look at what took place when Africans were being killed by the police departments around the country said that it is our policy that you don't use a chokehold. That was policy. No one passed a law saying that it is illegal to do it, and it continued. So statements do nothing except breed more problems. This is different. This is spiritual. This comes from the depth of the soul of mankind, meaning that this comes from a place that all the other movements started, but ended up being co-opted by the powers that be. This is different. The church can't co-opt it because it didn't start it. The government can't co-opt it. This is about people saying enough is enough, and that is far more powerful than talking about buying black, because it's not going to happen. In other words, and also, I don't think we've mentioned this, but the whole concept of buying black is also racist, because we are taking on the antics of the oppressor, who says, "Don't buy from them niggas," and that's been the attitude. So you can't do that. We have to stay spiritually focused in order for us to get a pure change of heart for everyone, not just a certain group, but for everyone. The Creator has shown us over and over again, you cannot use earthly tactics to make a spiritual change. You have to use spiritual tactics to make a total change.
Well, Jesus' example of when he was paying the tax, and he said, "Give unto Caesar what is Caesar's," that tells you right there that economics are not going to do it.
Yep. And in the garden, when Peter cut the ear off, what happened? No, this is not how this is going to be done. So violence, they're going to happen that way. When Jesus talks about and the violence takes it by force, he's not talking about a sword. That's a metaphor. What is he talking about? a pandemic that puts everybody in their home, and then you're forced to see what's happening in these streets. Now, in spite of the fact that we could be killed by a pandemic, we see that this is so wrong until this has to be addressed. So the Creator has created the circumstances brought into play, all the conditions that's necessary to bring this to where it is now. This has never taken place before. So without you having said, run down that which is Caesar, and then looking at the fallacy of physical violence overthrow, when you look at those things not being vital or effective, the only thing that's left is spiritual. The only thing that's left is spiritual. I mean, even look at how the religion influenced the government with Jesus. The government said, I don't see that wrong with him. The religion said, kill him. So, these are things that we are obligated to correct through our desires for loving kindness. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Any other questions or comments? Okay. The last thing that I want to say to you is this. Don't lose your spiritual focus. Keep in mind that what you're seeing on TV is the easy part. What the people you are seeing or experiencing is the hard part. If you have never been tear gassed before, you don't know what kind of agony you're going through day after day, night after night. Being tear gassed and coming right back to it again and again and again. It is horrible. The eyes burning, the lungs burning, your whole body feeling like it's going to implode because of the lack of the ability to breathe without pain. This is what's being endured in order for change to come. And you can't do that. You will not endure that as a sham. You are definitely committed if you're going to endure that day after day and night after night. Stay focused. Stay focused on the desires for loving kindness. Any more parting words? Not being any, I'll see you guys next week on the phone. Goodbye.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Bye. The rest of the evening.
Bye. Did you unmute it?
Yeah, while you were saying goodbye.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.